Florida. This some 2-hour flight culminating as he will land here momentarily at LaGuardia Airport as he will spend the night in New York City at Trump Tower as planned and is expected to be arraigned and booked here after this indictment from a Manhattan grand jury late last week.
Stand by.
As you can see, wheels down for former President Trump in LaGuardia Airport as we follow this major story here on Live Now from Fox. Of course, he will get in that motorcade that we saw on the ground just a little bit ago and travel to Trump Tower, where he'll spend the night before being arraigned on Tuesday. Of course, if you're just joining us, thank you so much for sticking with us as we do this live, raw, and unfiltered here on Live Now from Fox. Trump now arriving in New York amid tight security ahead of this surrender following this indictment. The former president boarded his private plane, of course, expected to be booked, arraigned into the nation's largest city, bolstered security, and warned political agitators that it's, quote, not a playground for your misplaced anger. Of course, the former president and his supporters, plenty of them, were on the ground in Palm Beach at his residence, outside of his residence. We talked with Fox News correspondent Jonathan Seary on the ground there, talking about the similarities in the amount of supporters that were there when the FBI did raid Mar-a-Lago, searching for those classified documents. Certainly a lot of loyal followers of the former president on the ground in Florida, and potentially some more on the ground in New York City. We're also getting other pictures right now. I want to change the shot up just a little bit as we're getting a ground shot from the concourse as the Trump plane there on the ground. Of course, it won't go to a jetway or anything like that, as they will just have the motorcade there on the tarmac to take him to Trump Tower alongside all of those Secret Service members. We heard from the mayor of New York talking about security protocols put in place around this unprecedented, this historic moment on this arraignment, talking about security protocols and all the things that will be happening there. Of course, we heard from them. They said their authorities are warning that people need to make sure protests are nonviolent, make sure that they warn the possession of a firearm or a weapon in certain areas of the city, including near a courthouse or a federal building, is a crime, regardless of the permit there. You also heard the quote that you'll hear over and over again today from Mayor Adams, that he said, quote, "While there may be some rabble-rousers thinking that coming to our city tomorrow, our message is clear and simple. Control yourselves." Of course, New York is our home, not a playground for your misplaced anger. We are the safest large city in America because we respect the rule of law in New York City. Of course, Trump Tower was open on Monday, but authorities were planning on closing nearby streets as Trump came and went. And additional security was also in the works. They've taken steps to close and secure the courthouse floor where the former president is set to appear for the arraignment on Tuesday. Of course, we have multiple pictures here on Live Now from Fox as the former president, will take the motorcade some 10 miles to Trump Tower as he awaits this arraignment and booking. Of course, this is not a lot of information as of yet on the charges, anywhere from between 20 and 34 criminal charges in this very secretive grand jury in the Manhattan DA, Alvin Bragg there. We saw him on Thursday leave the office as well, sending out several statements as there is quite a lot of chatter from both sides on this. Of course, we have not heard from President Biden, said he had no comment on Trump, this coming as he was leaving the White House on Friday. So former President Trump wheels down in LaGuardia right now as they await to take the motorcade to Trump Tower. As you can see, the ladder, the steps approaching former President Trump's plane as he has touched down now at LaGuardia Airport. Expected to be arraigned on Tuesday, of course, some 24 hours or so from now. We were watching this very, very closely here on Live Now as the former president leaving his residence at Mar-a-Lago to some fanfare. Plenty of supporters alongside the former president as they were wishing him well as he left for New York City, as the grand jury there in Manhattan indicted him last Thursday. We do know that he's expected to surrender early on Tuesday and be arraigned sometime later on Tuesday, and then also travel back to Mar-a-Lago for a speech that he's planning on giving in front of supporters as well as the media on Tuesday night. Certainly a lot of differing opinions on what he might say during this, and it also depends on a potential gag order put in place by a judge if that is the case. You can see the door swinging open from Trump's plane on the tarmac. Of course, no jetway here, as we did see President Trump, former President Trump, wave to some of his supporters as he was getting on this plane initially in Palm Beach, Florida. We're going to stick with this shot here on Live Now from Fox. I'm Andy Mack. As this unprecedented moment as he arrives there in New York City. Security will be heightened around Trump Tower and also the district attorney's office in Manhattan in downtown New York City, as this former President Trump expected to be arraigned and booked on Tuesday. Fingerprints, the mugshot, and the whole work likely to be happening. You can see several people stepping off the plane, including former President Trump soon enough. You can see just some essentially his sons stepping off the plane, as well as we saw Eric Trump tweeting from the plane, watching the people watching them as they were coming from Florida to New York City. I'm not sure if any of those people were former President Trump as of yet, as other people just getting into the back of some of these vehicles as they'll take this 10-mile journey to Trump Tower, where he'll spend the night before surrendering to authorities, to prosecutors, in less than 24 or so hours. Of course, not a lot of information as of yet about the charges that the grand jury is moving forward with, as the secrecy that revolves around a grand jury is something that we do not know a whole lot about. We learned from a lot of different legal experts about what potentially could be moving forward after this hush money probe there in this election. We heard from testimony they did from Michael Cohen, his former fixer, former lawyer. We also heard Robert Costello testify before a grand jury. Of course, a grand jury is very much different than a regular jury, as they can hear testimony from all sorts of witnesses on all sorts of subjects, as they're not necessarily confined to the regulations that a normal jury in a criminal case would be entitled to. Of course, we're still waiting to potentially have that warrant, that indictment unsealed to know much more. But we continue to wait here. Former President Trump expected to step off this plane as he's arrived after a 2-hour journey up the East Coast from Florida to New York City, landing in LaGuardia Airport, one of the busiest airports in the country, taking the motorcade to Trump Tower momentarily, where it'll be surrendering on Tuesday. Of course, we heard from New York officials talking about the security. Former Mayor Eric Adams talking about making sure people control themselves during potential protests, that he is not a playground for misplaced anger. More people stepping off the plane as of yet, but I don't believe we saw former President Trump as of yet. This certainly opens an unprecedented chapter in American history, Trump being the first former president to face criminal charges as he is in the midst of his third presidential campaign in an effort to regain the White House. It's causing major legal, political, and cultural events. They collide in unprecedented ways. The former president planned to spend the night at Trump Tower, then surrendered to authorities on Tuesday for booking and likely an afternoon arraignment. So far, officials have not seen an influx of people coming into the city. Of course, there's plenty of security around that. Still, authorities warned that possessing a weapon in certain areas is a crime, including at a courthouse or a federal building. Trump Tower was open on Monday, but authorities plan to close nearby streets. Additional security in the works. Trump supporters, including one of his staunchest defenders in Congress, Representative Republican Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, has planned a rally in New York late on Tuesday morning, probably before Trump would have to stand before a judge as part of the arraignment. Of course, the former president and his aides were eagerly embracing the expected media circus after initially being caught off guard by the news of the indictment when it broke on Thursday evening. Trump and his team are focused on using what they call a weak case against Trump to his advantage as we continue to wait for the former president to step off his private plane that just took the journey from Mar-a-Lago to New York City. As we continue to watch this frame here on Live Now from Fox, let's get over to our Fox 5 team in New York as they continue to cover this moment of former President Trump arriving in New York at LaGuardia. Let's listen into their coverage here on Live Now.
People there, and you know, here it's the same kind of media frenzy that you see once you're getting off the plane. You can see some people already coming off of the plane there. Trump traveling with, you know, a few dozen aides, as well as Eric Trump, his son, too. And so any moment now we will be seeing the Trump emerge and see his demeanor and see how he addresses kind of like what's going on the tarmac there before getting into the car. And again, the plan is to have him stay at Trump Tower for the night. On Tuesday, tomorrow, he will likely surrender to authorities for booking and then a likely afternoon arraignment, and at which point we will finally learn all of the charges in the indictment. They'll finally be aired, finally be unsealed, and we'll see that perp walk down the hall into the courtroom. Again, history in the making that you're watching right now. A former commander-in-chief been indicted, facing arraignment, will face a judge. We will learn about those criminal charges that he faces. A lot of first here, including this moment that we're witnessing at this time. And over, you know, hush money payments to, you know, adult film actress Stormy Daniels, a person who it seems he's been connected to throughout his campaign since 2016, leading before. And so That's what the case surrounds, and then we'll further learn the exact charges, whether it's falsifying the records with Trump Organization and beyond.
Right. Yeah. No. It's interesting. This does date back 7 years at this point. It's certainly one of the big questions hanging out there. After his arraignment, will the judge issue a gag order? If so, how would that impact the statements he's expected to make tomorrow night when he's back home at Mar-a-Lago? What would be the repercussions if he breaks or violates the gag order? Certainly, you know, there are some people on his own team who are trying to walk back a lot of what he's already said until this point, calling the judge out by name, saying the judge hates him, calling out the DA, Alvin Bragg. This weekend, you know, on one of the cable shows, Cy Vance Jr., who was Alvin Bragg's predecessor as DA in Manhattan, raised concern about Trump's attacks on Bragg and the judge thus far, saying that in and of itself raises the specter of potentially leveling additional criminal charges against him. Even Trump's attorney, Joe Tacopina, sort of trying to walk back some of that rhetoric that he has been firing off on social media and elsewhere since news of this arraignment broke. And another interesting point, we first went on indictment watch because of a post from Trump on his own social media account.
That he would be arrested.
Right. And he said a leak, which may or may not have been truthful. And then last week, when the news actually came down, we heard his team was surprised by it, and it took everyone off guard. So, you know, it's always interesting exactly where the truth lies when you're dealing with the former president, certainly. As we can see, the luggage continues to come off the plane right now. Trump's personal plane, LaGuardia Airport, Queens, on an otherwise gorgeous early April day here in New York City. Yeah,
very historic moment as we await the former president to see what he does when he gets off the plane here, his demeanor, his attitude.
And there he is. Sorry.
As you can see, former President Trump getting off the plane live in New York City at LaGuardia Airport. Of course, traveling from Mar-a-Lago to New York City as they were wheels down earlier here on Live Now from Fox. You watched the moment from the journey that began at Mar-a-Lago earlier on today, just after noon, as they now touch down as we approach the 4 o'clock hour on the East Coast. The former president arriving to begin an unprecedented chapter as he was the first former president to be indicted there for criminal charges. He will make this journey from LaGuardia Airport to Trump Tower, the some 10-mile journey there, as he will spend the night at his residence there before expecting to be in Manhattan for the arraignment and the booking early on Tuesday morning, in 24 hours or so from now. We're going to continue to follow this here on Live Now from Fox. I'm going to put up some other shots that we continue to follow as other people are stepping off the plane as well. Certainly a very big moment in time right now as we see this take place here in LaGuardia in New York City. We saw plenty of supporters on the ground in Palm Beach that were with flags, with signs, with different Trump-labeled signs, flags, shirts, and whatnot. We heard from Fox News correspondent Jonathan Siri talking about it's similar supporters, the followers of Trump after the raid on Mar-a-Lago, looking for those classified documents some time ago. The staunch supporters also there once again for this, as he has been indicted and will be arraigned on Tuesday. There's expecting to be in a rally with Republican Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene early on Tuesday morning. Certainly plenty of supporters likely to be in attendance for that as well. We want to put up another shot here on Live Now from Fox as we'll give you a look of where they are heading. As right now, this is the tarmac there at LaGuardia Airport. They will soon be heading to Trump Tower. As you can see, a live picture we have out of Trump Tower as well, downtown Manhattan, as this is the location. As you can see, plenty of traffic, expecting to close off some streets around Trump Tower, around the Manhattan DA's office. So that's a security concern that the officials in New York, the New York Police Commissioner, are continuing to watch as well. They also heard from the mayor there, Eric Adams, talking about making sure potential protests and rallies and speeches were nonviolent. Also talking about protocols, that making sure people understood the rules, the laws of New York, and some zones where carrying a firearm, no matter the permit, is considered illegal, that being like a courthouse or a federal building. So they will soon head to Trump Tower there from LaGuardia Airport. We want to give you another picture of what we see from a different angle here, just so you can kind of see what we're looking at as well from our various different angles. You can see there from kind of the concourse, you can see the front of the former president's plane, excuse me, as they will head to LaGuardia here. Head to Trump Tower momentarily here on Live Now from Fox. I'm Andy Mack. We're going to step aside for just a quick 2-minute break and then get right back into him as you'll see him travel that way.